Merchant from downtown. Good! John Merchant, the third, knocks down the three. Michael Helm slams it home.
Hello, Dowling College hoop fans. Welcome to our first edition of Greene on the Glass. I'm Scott Greene, the voice of Dowling College men's and women's basketball, right here on DowlingAthletics.com. Each week, we'll bring you the very best of Dowling College men's and women's basketball. Throughout the season, you'll hear from players and coaches, along with all the happenings on the hardwood. Today, I'm joined by women's basketball coach Joe Pellicane in his 25th season at the helm between coaching the men and the women here at Dowling College. And Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. And Scott, you did mention I have a couple of years of coaching 4th grade and 3rd grade CYO that should be thrown in there as well.
We always have to include those years as well. And Coach, you know, I had the opportunity to watch your practice yesterday, and it's hard to believe that it's been 25 years since you came here as your first year as a men's coach. I came here as a freshman basketball player, and I always seem to remember your energy and your passion that you bring to practice every day. And yesterday at practice, it felt like 25 years ago. Do you ever get tired?
I've been, and I sincerely mean this, I've been extremely blessed and very, very lucky. You kids, back in the day, that was a special team, and I'm not saying that because you're sitting here, but you know that's true, as I do. And I get the same feeling with these young ladies with this team. And I am very fortunate every day to go into the gym and to be their teacher and their coach. And if you don't love what you do, you certainly should be doing something else.
Well, I agree, Coach. And you started practice 2 weeks ago, and some of your familiar faces have now graduated. Christy Marone and Simona Barkova, and those have been your leaders on and off the court over the last 2 seasons. You might have one of the youngest teams in the East Coast Conference, bringing in 7 freshmen. What are your expectations for such a young team this year?
Well, you have talent, and you have kids willing to learn. They have an appetite to listen. They have an appetite to, with the process, to apply it on the floor. That said, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, wins and losses. But I do know at this point, if it continues between the eyebrows and the top of the head, it's going to be a joy to be their teacher and their coach. The league is as good, if not better than ever. And I do believe we have 8 players that are first or second year on the court, people that will get major time.
And you mentioned the other day to me, and I'll put a quote in there, that you really enjoy coaching these kids. What's so different this year with these kids than what you've had in the past?
Well, I've had similarities to these young ladies, and each year you have your own identity. And at this point in time, for the most part, they really buy into what we're trying to do as a team. They really buy into the culture that you're trying to develop. They really buy into what Dowling College is about. They really buy into some of the things we did off the court. We just didn't show up at the breast cancer last Sunday at Jones Beach. They went there and they marveled with everything that was going around. They represented their school. They represented the team. I was proud just to be in their company. And then that Friday evening before, where Tori had the bar mitzvah raising money for the diabetes chapter, sending money to a children's hospital in Israel. Our kids went there and had a blast. And again, it was just a pleasure for me to simply drive the van. As you know, I drive the van, I order lunch pretty well. Everyone has to find their niche in life. And just to be part of that team and part of the activity. They already raised in a month and a half over $1,500 for Make-A-Wish. And they do it not as a chore. So when you have a group like that, and you know as an educator, you're their teacher, it doesn't get better than that.
You know, and I was going to allude to that, taking it off the hardwood for just a second, some of the great things that you get your players involved in, off the court. And you mentioned the Make-A-Wish Foundation, something that Dowling College Athletic Department has been doing for several years. And I remember watching some of these ceremonies they had last year with the children coming down to the games. And it's just a terrific thing for not just the basketball program, but the athletic department, but Dowling College itself. Some of the other events you mentioned, you're doing the function for the Diabetes Foundation and walking for breast cancer. You always take part in the Think Pink events that go on for women's basketball throughout the course of the year. So, you know, you're not only teaching these kids the game of basketball, you're teaching them the game of life. And that's something that the kids will always take with them. Now, you look at your team, being young, you know, you're a freshman. And most freshmen walk into a program, they have to bide their time, they have to learn the system, they have to learn to grow up, learn to be a student athlete. They usually look up to their upperclassmen. In your case, your upperclassmen leaders are sophomores. Seja Gamble, Connie Simmons, those are your leaders this year. How important will it be for those two to step up as leaders in order for you to have a successful season?
Well, part of the joy that you alluded to just a moment ago, coming back this year and watching Seja and watching Connie grow before your eyes, on the court, off the court, taking care of their teammates, taking care of the freshmen, trying to establish a culture that we mentioned about doing things collectively, win or lose. The scoreboard does not dictate who you are as a team or who you are as individuals. So for me, from the outside looking in, it's just been really wonderful to see the sincere effort that these two that you mentioned have given to our entire team. Also, you mentioned about the learning, what we try to impart and teach. You never stop learning. As a teacher, regardless of age, regardless of how many years you're doing this, you learn from your players. You learn from the people around. The fact that we have 3 staff members who are volunteering their time, Meaner, Michelle, and Coach Carter. And when they show up, as you watched yesterday, they work, they're dedicated, and they understand what it's to put the Dowling uniform on. And I also mentioned to Rick and other people, if you cut my veins, you're probably going to see some Dowling blue. Well, I don't think I'm the only one. There are people like yourself, there are people who many, many years have given back to this school because of their love for the school, because of the admiration for our program, and I'm so thankful to all of you.
Let's take a look at the conference a little bit. Last year, we spoke several times. We talked about the parity among the conference players. And last year, you felt that the ECC had some of the best talent it's had in years. How do you feel about this year's talent?
Honestly, it might surpass last year. With the Bridgeport, the Patterson kid, the freshman kid from Manhattan Center, she is going to be a terrific player. The 2 transfer kids they brought in, the 6'2", 6-foot kid, D1 transfers are going to give them immediate help to their program. You have Amanda Bartlett coming back for Queens. You have Laura Rivera stepping in from Manhattan for Malloy. You have the Stat group coming back, who are as talented as any team in this conference. And then, of course, you have CW Post, that many of the coaches voted, rightfully so, as the #1 preseason selection. And then you have people who are the 7 and 8 who are capable of beating anyone else. New York Tech with Anthony, bringing in numerous players. Mercy kids returning the bulk of their team. I think it's a wonderful conference. Yes, only 8 schools, but as you know, 4 of those 8 were ranked in the Northeast every week last year. Unheard of. What I would like to see our conference have is similar to what developed on the men's side a couple of years ago when CW Post, under Coach Klutz, stepped out and gained national recognition. I would like to see one of our team follow that lead and gain national recognition. I might be in error, but I do not believe an East Coast Conference women's basketball team has ever been to the Elite 8.
I know last year Malloy College, they won their first round in defeating Pace University. And I was going to mention, you know, last year 4 teams remained in the NCAA Northeast rankings for most of the season. Last year the East Coast Conference sent 2 teams to the NCAA tournament, and it really came down to an upset victory for Nyack over Holy Family. We would have had 3 teams into the tournament, which would have even been another record. How do you think the ECC stacks up this year versus the NE10 and the CACC?
Well, I think just what you said, the top teams can play with anyone in the Northeast, and they've shown that. And when you have multiple schools beating quality programs like Bentley, who was superbly coached by Coach Stevens, when you have Pace University losing to 2 teams in our conference in 1 year, that speaks well of our conference, regardless of when that victory occurs. And what I'm really pleased to see is many of our teams are playing their non-league schedule, the Northeast 10 schools. I don't think anyone's as foolish as Pelican is at this point, because we have the preseason Northeast 10 1, 2, 3, 4 on our schedule. But as you know, going back in years, if you want to be considered a top-rated program, you must play people you respect and people who give you an opportunity to get into the neighborhood. And that's what we do.
And you're testing that right away. You open up your season on November 12th at Malloy College, where you face some of the top Northeast 10 conference teams right now in the Northeast. And, Coach, we wish you the best of luck on the upcoming season. We look forward to covering your games on Penn Atlantic Television on the home court. We wish you the best of luck and your kids.
Sure.
That was Joe Pelican, women's basketball coach at Dowling College. When we return, we'll have Steve Hain, men's basketball coach, and he'll be talking about the men's upcoming campaign. You're watching Green on the Glass right here on DowlingAthletics.com.
Give me the green light, give me just one night. I'm ready to go right now, I'm ready to go right now. Let's go!
Welcome back to this week's edition of Green on the Glass here on DowlingAthletics.com. We now move to the men's side, where I'm joined by Steve Hain, the men's basketball coach in his 5th season with the Golden Lions. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Certainly, great to be here.
Coach, we look at last season, and you experienced some success last year, an upset victory over Bridgeport, who eventually went on to win the East Coast Conference, went on to the NCAA tournament. You made it to the playoffs again for your 2nd year in a row, and you've started to develop the team unity. However, you look down at your lineup today, and there's a lot of differences than you had last year. You look back at your big guys, your Aliyun Jai and Elon Howard. That's almost 14 feet of basketball players right there, shot blockers and rebounds. Josh Lowe, your scorer, he nailed a lot of three-pointers for you, kept you in a lot of games, and then you got to replace one of Dowling's most prolific scorers in David Seegers. Who are you going to look up to this year to try to fill those voids?
It's really, and certainly those guys will be missed, because they've been a big part of helping us just grow and develop and trying to become the program that we want to be and we're moving forward to. So those guys are going to be sorely missed in a lot of ways, not just in the numbers and statistics, but everything that they all did on a day-to-day basis within our locker room, practice floor, and just within just the day-to-day stuff. But as a team, I look at the development of a program, and there's a lot of phases of that. And I think year to year, day to day, moving forward, we've made progress. And last year, although we, I think from a numbers standpoint, took a step back. We won 6 games 4 years ago, 9, 12, made it to the semifinals of the conference tournament if we're just counting numbers. Last year, we won 10 games. We were in first round exit, although we did make the conference tournament. But I think it was disappointing with the number of returning players we had from the year before, and where we felt we could have gone as a program. Although it may have been a step sideways, I don't think it was a step backwards. It's part of the development of a program, and having gone through this process a number of times at a number of different places, you realize that 18 to 22-year-old people and developing a program and becoming who you want to be as a team takes a lot of different learning opportunities. And last year was a really good one for us. And I think as a whole and as a team, I think we're in a great position to move forward as a program this year and attacking whatever losses that we may have had in terms of personnel, not individually with any particular person, but as a group and as a team. I think we have some really talented players in our program, and I think we have some new guys that can do some really good things. I think we have some returning guys that have grown up and have a chance to do some really good things. But I think as a program, I think we're positioned to do some really good things this year and make a really good step forward as a group and overcome whatever those things that we might have missed.
Now, you mentioned developmental. This year you brought in 8 new faces. That's 8 new players, and you're probably still getting to know their names at this point. I know some of them are juniors and some of them are freshmen. Which of those 8 newcomers can we expect to get some immediate impact from?
Well, that's a good question. I'm actually curious myself to see what the answer to that is. I anticipate that some of the new guys are going to really be able to help us. So we have Jake Stevens, who played on a state championship team in Zavarian High School in Brooklyn, and is just a tremendous leader, and I think he's going to be a very good point guard in our program for the next few years. He played with Levance Fields, who played Pittsburgh, and they were backcourt mates on the state championship team. And at Zavarian, lost to Niagara Falls in the Federation game. Johnny Flynn and some other pretty good players at Niagara Falls at that time. Algirdas Masavicius is a junior transfer from Lithuania, and he comes with a lot of different experience, levels of maturity, and I think his ability has some great growth potential just because he's adjusting to the American game. Although he's played high school basketball here in the States before, playing at this level for the first time, I think he has a great opportunity to help us. And some freshmen, I think Leon Taylor from Rockville Center from Southside High School has got an opportunity to be a really good young player in our program. We've got Coleman Austin, who played at Thomas Jefferson in Brooklyn, and he comes with a great deal of experience. His backcourt mate is playing up at Stony Brook this year, and it's going to be a really good addition for them. So I think just across the board, we have a good amount of guys that can help us. But as a whole, I just feel that the commitment of our new guys, the commitment of our returning guys, it will be shown, and it has been shown already in the classroom with our performance in the classroom in terms of our commitment to excellence there. And it's just going to carry over, I really feel, to on the court. And it's not going to be any one player. I think we just have, I just think when people ask me about this year, I think we have the potential to be a great team. What that translates to in terms of wins, in terms of championships and those things, I can't tell you, in Legion any direction there, but I know we have a chance to be a great team because we have guys that are really interested in that.
Let's take a look at the conference. Last season, East Coast Conference sent one team to the NCAA tournament, University of Bridgeport. CW Post shared the league title with Bridgeport during the regular season. Bridgeport went on to win the conference championship, earn the one slot from the NCAA. What does this league have to do to earn the respect from this NCAA committee?
Looking historically at this conference, many years ago, we're sending the old NICAC sending 5 teams to the regional tournament, and it really adds up to what you're doing at a conference and you challenging yourself in terms of your scheduling, number one, to put yourself in a position to compete against the best teams in the region out of our league, and then being able to beat those teams on the road and or at home. And I think if you look at those teams that our region has put forward, I think we've done a really good job as a region of putting the best teams forward in the last few years. And I think that's shown in the success that our teams have had. CW Post was, a few minutes away from winning a national championship. And so we've had some teams that have gone deep into the region and the national tournament. We have to compete at the highest level in our region. We have to play the most competitive schedule. And I think our schedule right now, in terms of who we're playing AIC on the road, we're playing Adelphi, we're playing St. Rose, we're going to play Felician, who was an NCAA tournament team, and we're also going to play Loyola Marymount, which is going to be a non-counting game for us, but certainly a Division I competitive game.
Let's take a look at that schedule. You guys do open up against AIC. It's a tough game for you guys right off the bat, playing an NE10 team. And then what I've always liked about your scheduling is it was a very impressive looking schedule. You know, when you go online and you take a look at men's basketball for the last 2 years, you saw them play. You play University of Massachusetts up there, UMass at Amherst. You played them 2 years in a row and you almost beat them twice. They didn't give you a third shot this year, but even better, you were invited this year to the James Naismith Hall of Fame Tip-Off Classic in Springfield, Massachusetts. And what's ironic is that you have Division I and Division II teams. You're playing on day one with all the Division I teams, you know, against Loyola Marymount. How do you prepare your team for such an event, and what do you guys hope to get out of a tournament like this?
Yeah, it's a great honor to begin with, just to be invited to such a tournament and to have the trust of the committee who's organizing the tournament to play in such a event. I feel, did a really nice job as a team the last 2 years at UMass, and they were very helpful in helping us secure this game. And I think the showing that our team had in the last 2 years was a big part of giving us that opportunity. And I think it's great exposure for our school, or, you know, our entire college. I think it's great for our guys to be able to play in such a setting. And last year, you know, to our guys' credit, and the year before, the guys showed up and they competed, and you know, we had, you know, chance to, you know, they were one possession games, you know, each of the last 2 years, and I think that was exciting for us. Now those were exhibition games. This is going to count. This is the real deal for both teams, Loyola Marymount and ourselves. So you know, I expect the Loyola won 18 games last year. They're on the fringe in terms of NCAA tournament play. They play in a great conference. So I expect it to be, you know, a great challenge for us. You know, for us, we can compete. You know, we can get our guys in position to have some success offensively, defensively, and to just keep building what we were trying to build as a team and as a program of being team first and moving this program forward on a day-to-day basis. I think this could be just a fun, you know, exciting way to do it, and just a great atmosphere. So.
And you know, putting Dowling on the map, you know, playing in these type of tournaments is exactly what it does. And if you take a look at the roster for that Saturday on November 20th at the Springfield Civic Center, we'll start going backwards. The 7:30 game at night, UMass taking on New Mexico State. Almost sounds like that could be a game that ESPN would be covering on a regular basis. Your 5 o'clock game, Bradley University, who's a perennial NCAA tournament caliber team, taking on the Trojans from Southern California. You know, and you start to put your name in with some of these other teams, and even the 2:30 game, Rider University against TCU. Jimmy Christian comes back with his Texas Christian team, who's always poised to make that step to the NCAA tournament. And then you have Loyola Marymount taking on Dowling. And, you know, if you're an outsider or you're a recruit from another area and you're looking at the schedule and you're looking at the lineup and you're putting in the same breath Dowling College, Southern California, TCU, New Mexico, UMass. What a great, great thing that is, you know, not just for your program, but for the school in itself. Let's take a look away from the hardwood for just a second and talk about some of the charity events that you guys have taken place in. Mainly, you just took place in the 9th annual Tunnel of Towers run in New York City. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I think that's just it's been a great event. Stephen Siller, who is a firefighter who passed away on 9/11, his siblings started this run 9 years ago, and there were probably under 5,000 people that ran that first year, and now this year we're in a neighborhood of 25,000 people that ran, and the number of dollars raised is in the millions every year, and it's just a great event, not just for the cause, for the money that's raised for the charities, which are incredible causes, and you know, just moving money in the right direction for a lot of good reasons. For our guys to really be immersed in that whole day's events and really understanding the whole idea of service to your community, and it's just you can't think of a greater example than that day. You know, you're following the path of this fallen firefighter who ran through the tunnel when he had every reason not to on his day off, to do his job and to do more than his job, to try and save and help people. And you know, our guys just really following in his footsteps and seeing that. And maybe they're 18 to 22 years old and they don't quite really understand it. When you run out of that tunnel, you have firefighters with pictures of every fallen firefighter, and it seems to go on forever when you're running through that tunnel. And it's pretty impactful, and I think that's the greatest thing that our team and program has gotten out of it, is just a sense of service and the importance of it. And I'm just really proud of our guys with how they really embrace those opportunities, and this was just a great day again for our team and for everybody.
It is terrific, and your student athletes not only take away basketball memories when they graduate, but their community service efforts as well. Coach, we wish you the best of luck on the upcoming season. Look forward to calling your games throughout the course of the year on Penn Atlantic TV. Well, that's all for the Green on the Glass this week. I want to thank Joe Pelican and Steve Hain for joining us, along with our producer and sports information director, Brian Sayos, along with all the fans that are tuned in tonight. Join us next week for our next edition of Green on the Glass at dowlingathletics.com. I'm Scott Greene. Have a great night.